Now, there is a time when the name Impreza would strike fear into the hearts of rally teams and excitement in equal measure into the hearts of the fans. Now, when we heard that Toyota was taking over Subaru, there were a few fears that the Badge would lose its most defining characteristics. And sure, we did not have to wait for long before we saw cars such as the Subaru Impreza, which is very, very identical to the Toyota Ractis. So we are here today on a mission with two objectives. Objective number one is to do an in-depth review of this Subaru Impreza. Objective number two is to find out if the once wild Subi has been tamed. Let us get started with the front. Now, up front here, you have these 3-in-1 headlights that start off from here and flow all the way towards the radiator. And if you look in here, there is this center lens that is circular, and this is the lens that moves about whenever you adjust it with a knob that I'll show you later on when we get to the interior. And it basically lets you dictate how much of the road you want to see. You can have it shining downwards to illuminate just ahead of the car, or you can lift it up to illuminate a further distance ahead of you. Then in the middle here we have the Subaru Badge, the 6 stars and the blue background, and this plastic grille that does not look good. But if you do look in, you can see just a tiny bit of the radiator in there. And then there is this chrome strip that runs all around there and separates the radiator, the grille, from the lights. And down here you have your number plate, that is obvious. And then more airflow going in through there, of course, to that radiator. What this Subaru does not have are the fog lights. They should be here, but instead there's this honeycomb plastic thing that does nothing. Now, because this is a 2009 model, there are some problems with it that come with its age. For instance, that bumper is not firmly placed on the car. I mean, it kind of feels like you would hit a pothole and then the whole thing will just descend and, well, drag behind you. Now, underneath this bonnet is the engine. Come, let's take a look. Now open it. It opens up quite easily. It's not heavy, either to open it or to close it. It has those hydraulic stands that are quite easy to lift. This is what I find particularly interesting about this. Look at that. This is where the air flows in as it goes into the air filter before it is then directed into the engine. The engine of which is a flat 4 placed right here. Now, that engine is a naturally aspirated flat 4 that puts out 106 bhp at 6,000 rpm and 142 newton meters of torque at 3,000 rpm. That power is sent to all 4 wheels via a 5-speed automatic transmission that is placed somewhere, well, just past the engine. Down the side, there is not much to talk about. I mean, other than the wheels, which are 15-inch. Other than these 15-inch wheels, there is really not much else to talk about. There is the brake, you can see it there, and this cover has the Subaru emblem. You have a bit of your indicators right here. There is this line that runs all the way to the back. The side mirrors, the handles to open and close the door. It is very, very simple. It is very minimalistic, and I kind of like its side profile, but I am not crazy about it. At the back here, you have these wrap-around tail lights that start off with a bit of a reflector. Then you have your brake lights, your indicator, and the reverse light. And then a bit of room for your number plate, the Subaru Badge. And the boot lid is shaped in a hatchback kind of style that really defines this car. And I, for one, love that shape. Now on the inside, we are greeted by this 3-spoke steering wheel with the 6-star Subaru Badge dead in the center. Up ahead of you is the instrument cluster. On the left hand side, there is the rev gauge that goes all the way to 8,000 RPM with a red line starting at 7,000 RPM. Then in the center, there is your speedometer that tops out at 180 kilometers per hour. And on the right hand side is the fuel gauge. Now, this is what is interesting about these gauges. If I insert the key and start the car, they do a bit of a dance before they settle back down. On the right hand side of the Subaru Impreza, you have this torque here that controls your indicators and all the lights on and off. Then there is this scroll here that lets you decide where on the road you want the lights to be pointing. You can set it at 0, in which case the lights will be pointing directly ahead of you, or you can increase it all the way to 5, that lifts up the lens and the light illuminates a longer distance rather, ahead of you. You have your switches for the side mirrors to adjust them, and this one lets you decide whether you want to adjust the left side mirror or the right one. Then you have this other button here that folds all the side mirrors. On the left hand side, there is this torque that controls your wipers and their sprinklers. There is one for the front and a button for the rear wiper. And that is just about everything that the Subi has directly in front of me. So then we move to the center. Now in the center here, you have first of all this clock right here that tells you the time, that is if you've set it right. And then directly beneath it is this radio. And the sound quality from the speakers that come with this car as standard is insane. I have connected my phone to the radio via the auxiliary cable, and listen to this.
Shetani naitwa mbichwa na Brando huyu akisha akita kufanya kicha, mimi napiga hiyo picha, unadhani unaumwa na kichwa na tena uliwakilisha uko na maso pool kichwani na Brando libaichwani.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Beneath this radio is this small storage compartment in which you can keep your driving licenses or your business cards if you are that kind of a person. Then below that is your air conditioning vents that adjust up and down from side to side. Directly below that is the hazard button, and then your controls for your air conditioning. And below that is this compartment right here with a rubber mat, and you can keep your phone there, and that rubber mat will grip onto your phone and stop it from rolling around when you're driving. Then we have this gear shift for the 4-speed automatic gearbox that is in this car, that is mated to the engine up front. Well, you have your normal driving modes in which you have your parking, reverse, normal, or the drive, but if you push this lever to the right, it does two things. One, it engages the sport mode. As you can see, the spotlight has come on in my instrument cluster. And two, it changes the gearbox from automatic to manual. So when you push this selector to the right like that, two things happen. One, you engage sport mode, and two, it switches the gear from automatic to manual. You can downshift it by pulling the selector down, or upshift it by pushing it forward. Then here you have your cup holders. Conveniently, I did not come with my mug today, so I will not be showing you whether they do fit or not. Then you have this old school handbrake that I am a big fan of. I love that, instead of the usual silly electronic brake that come in more modern cars. As for more storage, right here you have this compartment that is not so deep, but you can keep things such as cables inside there, your USB cables and stuff. And more storage comes here. in the glove box, which is large enough, and it has well, it has another compartment up here, and then there is this other one down here, and you can separate your luggage that you choose to keep in there. There is more storage on the doors in the form of a door bin, and there is also one on this side. I can keep my bottle of water right in there, and I can also have more space to store some things like a small umbrella during the rainy season, although my toxic masculinity will not allow me to carry an umbrella around. So when the rainy season does roll about, I fall sick quite a lot. Now, there is this small lever down here that unlocks the steering wheel, and it allows you to adjust it. But unlike other cars, the Subaru Impreza steering can only adjust upwards and downwards. I mean, it does not move in any other direction. You can only move it up or down and then lock it in place. And the seats, they do slide backwards and forwards quite easily, and there is enough leg room in here for me to fit and be comfortable as I drive along, considering that I am 6 foot plus. I would be very, very comfortable driving this car. And that is all the things that I could find that were worth mentioning up front here. I'm just looking if there's anything I forgot. There's nothing I forgot. So let us now jump into the back seats and see what it's like back there. Now back here, this is a bit cramped. I mean, this seat is in the position that I would put it in if I were driving the car. And as you can see, I have hardly any leg room, but the headroom is good. You have your window switches, the latch to open and close the door. There is no air conditioning option back here, but you can theoretically seat 3 people across. But the person who sits in the middle will have 2 things. 1, that person will have to be really skinny, and 2, he or she will not be as comfortable because of this drive shaft tunnel right here that eats into the leg space. Oh my God, even switching from one seat to the other back here is a problem. But the good thing is, I do have 2 speakers, one on this door, the other one on the other one, and a storage compartment there where I can keep my bottle of water. And there is more storage left over for something small. You can keep something small in there. Now, there are no more features to discuss back here except the isofix points, which are hidden behind this Velcro cover, but they are quite easy to access on that side, and the other one is right here on this side. So fitting a child seat in this Subaru should not be a problem. It should not take you long. And that is just about everything that is at the back. So let us now take a look at what the boot space is like. Now, back here, there should be a latch that unlocks it somewhere around. Here it is. Back here, you have this hydraulic boot lid that is held up whenever you open it, and then you'd have to push it down again to close. And in here you have 301 liters of cargo. And, well, typical of a Subaru boy, there is this. This is not to bury dead people. No, it is to bury the hearts of the broken ladies that he leaves in his wake. Now, underneath this boot lid, you have a space-saving spare tire, a tire changing kit, and a little bit of more storage here and there. You can extend the storage in the Subaru Impreza by folding down the rear seats, and if you do that, then it extends to 1,216 liters of space. And that is all for the interior. So with the exterior covered, we have gotten to the point of the review where we take this Subaru for a ride and see what it feels like on the road. Come with me. A bit of a safety tip. The very first thing you do whenever you get into your car, get your belt, put it around you, lock it in, then you can take off. The first thing you notice while in here is how great the visibility is. I mean, I have a very clear line of sight to my side mirrors, and there is enough room in that rear view mirror for me to look through. The sound insulation in here is not so great. There's a lot of road noise coming through from the tires and the road. Since we are not on a very smooth road, I can hear a lot of noise. There is also a lot of vibration coming through. So many things are vibrating in here. The performance doesn't feel that great. I mean, it could really do better. It could do way better. The steering wheel is not so light, but then again, it's not so heavy. There is a bit of feedback from it. I can just almost tell what is happening to the front wheels. Like I said before, it does not accelerate very well. That flat 4 engine is underpowered for a car like this. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the Impreza with a turbocharged engine performs better. It will pick up better. Now, let us find out how smooth the suspension is when we take this thing a little bit off the road. Oh, that is a rough ride. It doesn't feel like it wants to be in this environment. I can feel just about every bump that we hit. And as you can see, my cameraman is really struggling to keep that picture steady. But he stands no chances against deep holes like that one or like that one. It is really not a comfortable car to be driving off-road, despite the fact that it pulls with all 4 wheels and will therefore have no problem getting itself out of a muddy situation or a slippery one. This is uncomfortable. You do not want to do long distances in this thing off the tarmac road. The ground suspension is not so bad, but then again, it is not great. I mean, you do have to be very careful while you're crossing bumps, because you just might ground out. And to show you how underpowered the engine is, we are now coming to a bit of an incline, and look at how this thing goes. It is struggling, and the speedometer is dropping, and it is dropping some more. Keeping in mind that that incline is not as steep, but then still, oh my God, it does not do well. Toyota really have done a number on this. Impreza Badge should not be on a vehicle that has this kind of slow performance. I mean, this thing should have a racing heritage. It has terrorized rally tracks since back in the day when Subaru was using it. And now it feels just as tame as any other family saloon car. I am saddened by that. That really makes me very sad. The brakes are not so good. I mean, I do have to press them for quite a distance before I can feel any noticeable deceleration in the car, no matter what speed I am doing. But it is maneuverable, that I will give it. It is very, very maneuverable, even in tight spaces. You can move this thing around in parking lots without fearing hitting another car, unless you are a very, very careful driver. No, unless you are a very, very careless driver. You do feel every single bump that you hit. And when I do put my foot down, it takes a while to react, and then it gets going, and it doesn't put on speed that quickly. To overtake on the highway, you will have to be very, very brave, especially if it's dual and you have cars coming at you from the other side, and you have to overtake something like maybe a trailer or something. This thing will scare the living daylights out of you if you decide to do that kind of thing. To show you just how poorly the Subaru Impreza accelerates, I will actually put it up against a drag race versus the Toyota Allion. I know, it makes no sense. They are not in the same class. But in my defense, they do have the same displacement. And this can do the 0 to 100 in 10.5 seconds, while this one does it in 13.2. Let's just see how much of a difference that will make. So, we came here today on a mission with two objectives. Objective number one was to do an in-depth review of the Subaru Impreza. That has been accomplished. And now it is time for us to accomplish objective number two. In my opinion, I think that this particular model has lost its appeal. It does not accelerate as a Subaru Impreza should. It kind of looks the part, but as far as driving and acceleration goes, it doesn't live up to the name. However, later on in the series, we will be looking at the turbocharged version of the Subaru Impreza, and I hope that one lives up to the name.